Hi, I'm Catherine Llewellyn, the host of the podcast. You can find out all about Truth and Transcendence on truthandtranscendence.com. And you can find out all about me on beingspace.world, where you will find my online coaching offering as well as my UK-based workshops. The Freedom of Spirit workshop for liberation and empowerment, the Pellower Radical Shift in Consciousness workshop for spiritual expansion, and transformational coaching for exploring the mind-body-spirit connection on the expansive path. You can also support the podcast by actually making a donation. I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to Truth and Transcendence. You can find all our episodes on truthandtranscendence.com. Last Friday, I had an interview with a wonderful lady called Alexandra Beller. Alexandra is a choreographer, a director, and an educator who blends somatics, inquiry, and creative freedom. She's a former member of the Bill T. Jones Arnie Zane Dance Company. She leads Alexandra Beller Dances and has created 40-plus international works. She has taught at many prestigious universities and is core faculty at the Laban Institute. She's the author of The Embodied Conductor, 2025, and currently working on her book, The Anatomy of Art, coming out in 2026. And Alexandra supports artists in deepening process and possibility through her work. You can find Alexandra at alexandrabellerdances.org. So today we have an extra special episode, which is a meditation experience, which Alexandra has kindly gifted to the show. So in a moment, I will stop talking and Alexandra's meditation will begin. So for this, clearly, you need to be in absolutely the right physical space for it. So please make sure you are in a space where you can move easily, where you can lie down comfortably, where you can sit comfortably, and where you have everything you need for regulating your temperature. Layers to put on, to take off, maybe a throw, whatever you need for your comfort, whether that's slippers, cushions, a fan, open window, whatever it might be, and some water. While this meditation is occurring, if at any point anything feels at all uncomfortable, please pause, back off, take a breath, and then resume when ready. Enjoy.
So, finding a position on the floor that feels good to you, and starting to tune into the moving target of the present moment, and noticing each half of each breath and let's notice how the skull and the spine relate to each half of the breath. So how the inhale changes that atlo-occipital joint and how the exhale changes it. And as we're filling and emptying and noticing this spine to skull relationship, let's also bring in an awareness of the back molars and the jaw and the base of the tongue, opening of the throat. The roof of the mouth into the sinus, passing by the ear canals, and finally the nostril. And so let's add in the eye sockets and feel the hollows of the head, eye sockets, nostril, sinus, ear canals, cavity of the mouth, throat. All responding to both the inhale and the exhale. And seeing if you can allow the increasing attention to the sensation of the head take down the attention to the thoughts of the head. And so if you notice that thought part of the brain working, Just planting it back in sensation, planting that attention back in sensation. And as we're inhaling and exhaling, starting to bring in an awareness of the rest of the skeleton, just noticing where the bones move on the inhale and where they move on the exhale. Starting to imagine that you have in the tissues of the body partial stories, facts, whole stories, words, feelings, residue from conversations, that in your fascia that surrounds the organs, that surrounds the muscle, surrounds bone, ligament, tendon, you have a map. And the map goes beyond your own life. It goes into other lives, generations. The material in your bone cells, in your heart cells, in the skin cells, in the fascia, in the fluids of the body that transcends your own life and has in it information that has not become visible yet. And so as we're just breathing, we're also just imagining the breath existing inside this landscape that has all of these different histories in it, your own lived history, and then some deeper generational, ancestral history. It's also got the histories of things we've been taught. Some of that information and residue is material that can be shed and rejected and let go of, and that may require moving it out, and it may require just breathing it out. And some of that information and history and residue is stuff we haven't yet discovered that has possibility for us. So we're just breathing into this landscape of what has been left behind by what has already happened. And then there's this other landscape in the body, this landscape of potentiality, of what has not yet happened. And we're going to start moving from the space between those two tensions. The tension of what has already happened, that has shaped and formed us, and the pull, the potential of what has not yet happened. As movement happens in the body, it immediately sheds into the past. So we're in a constant organizing and reorganizing of experiencing the present moment by shedding whatever has just happened, letting it go. And by reaching out towards the future just enough that something happens, some action happens that moves us from past to future through the present. And so we're listening through breath to the tissue, the bone, the organ, the fluids. And without naming what starts asserting itself, we're listening for one part of the body to start asserting itself through some kind of action movement. We're listening for one bone, one joint, one muscle, one quadrant to ask to move. And as soon as it asks to move, it's already in motion. And like setting something in motion in a place that has no friction, like space, we're going to let that thing in motion become another motion. Going to let repetition into the room as a form of comfort. And if the thinking brain starts turning its volume up, you just turn up the volume of the sensing and feeling brain. Not trying to inhibit the thinking brain, just turning up the volume on the sensing and feeling so that it becomes louder than the thinking. And as always, there's no destination, there's no expectation, there's no goal, there's no judgment. It can stay in rocking the pelvis for the entire time. And we're just listening for how the rest of the body is listening to the action that is happening. How is it changing? How has it already changed since it began? Just listening for the effect of that movement on other structures, other parts, other tissues. And as always, breath can become sound if it wants to. Stillness doesn't really exist for us as living creatures, but things that look like stillness from the outside certainly exist. So there's no expectation to present or manifest or be visible in movement. It's just about following the dance that's happening at any size, with any system, in any direction, with any quality. And just listening for how one thing wants to speak to another thing. And without naming the stories that we encounter, we are just letting our body have permission, invitation to tell its many stories, whether they are recognizable to us or not. And as the body is starting to take more space and flow, and we're also just noticing the environment of the floor, of gravity, and recognizing that we are also in an animal body that has mechanics to it. And we're listening to the mechanics as well as the stories. So the function and the expression are both invited into our consciousness. The stability and the mobility are invited into our consciousness. The inner and the outer are invited. The exertion and the recuperation are invited.
I hope you enjoyed that beautiful meditation. Please drink some water and do whatever else that your body is telling you that you need. You may need to eat something, you may need to rest, you may need to go out and have a walk, you may need a bath or a shower. Whatever it is that you need, please give yourself whatever that may be. And just notice how your sleep is tonight. Notice whether you have dreams, and notice how you are in the morning. Because that's all very useful information about the body and the energy and about how we are. So thank you for tuning in. Have a wonderful week. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. It really helps if you give a thumbs up, a 5-star rating, a review, and share with your friends. If you're looking for transformational coaching or an intensive transformational weekend workshop experience, I can help with that. You can actually help the show by making a donation. Until next time, take care.